Battlefield's infantry versus vehicle balance has always been a topic worth discussing, especially before the launch of a new Battlefield game. It is a thin line between love and hate. Vehicles are an important part of Battlefield. If we dumb them down, we strip away what makes Battlefield, well, Battlefield. Throughout the history of the franchise, we had a lot of iterations of vehicles and ways of infantry to deal with them that would ultimately cement the core gameplay loop of that Battlefield title. But we must also understand, in my opinion, why many people opted to play out of the so-called vehicle-heavy maps and self-restricted themselves to just a few maps per game, basically. The name is Ace, welcome to another Battlefield video. Okay, so I mentioned people self-restricting themselves to certain maps per game, and by per game, I mean per Battlefield title. In Battlefield 3, we had people playing only Metro and North Shore Canals. In Battlefield 4, we had them playing lockers only, or in some rare cases domination, basically the infantry pure game modes. But then in Battlefield 1, with introduction of Breakthrough, both infantry and vehicles, in my opinion, kinda blended together. I think this was maybe the first real attempt from DICE to try and keep all types of players together. It's one of the reasons I'm a huge fan of Breakthrough. We all kinda blended together, and some people were not alienated to just playing 1 or 2 maps per Battlefield title. Now this begs the question, is Conquest the reason people just did not want to play some maps in Battlefield 3 or 4, or was it just the vehicles? Now, I made a video about Conquest before and what troubles the classic mode might have, but I will not go over it in this video. But what was clear to me is that some people on my Battlelog friend list just did not like playing versus vehicles at all, and were fine with just playing Metro for basically a decade. The general opinion from these people who I knew was that Conquest on these so-called air maps was them just fighting vehicles 24/7 and dying to them non-stop. And there is some truth in that statement. If you take a look at Battlefield 3, the code game did not in fact have anything in its arsenal to deal with very good vehicle players. What is an infantry guy supposed to do versus an F-18 Super Hornet, right? Nothing. Even in anti-tech department, we just had a standard RPG, sub-80 mines and C4 that all had limited time usage, while armor had unlimited ammo basically. On top of that, the actual dumbfire rockets flew very slowly in Battlefield 3, making a very slippery armor driver very hard to hit on mid to long range, especially if they're driving some of the LVs. So the only real effective way for one player to deal with vehicles were one of these options. First, for example, he hunts vehicles in a 4-man coordinated squad of engineers or C4 jeeps, and that's easier said than done. We established that many infantry players just refuse to play anything but Metro and North Shore Canals in Battlefield 3, so actually finding people to do this was extremely difficult. You would also then have to be on some type of voice chat to coordinate your attacks as well. This is 2011, remember, we are talking about here. So no in-game voice chat, there was nothing like that. And even if he was on voice chat, this all, in my opinion, transforms what was supposed to be a fun, casual experience of people just enjoying Conquest and having fun into a super sweaty, unfun, and frustrating chore of just hunting vehicles. 2, he jumps into a vehicle where, yes, he will fight other vehicles, but he is now putting immense pressure on other infantry players on the enemy team. And eventually, as he plays more and more vehicles, he gets to understand that he can just focus on killing enemy infantry and win the game that way. It was very effective. Or 3, the final option, he just goes and plays Metro and North Shore Canals. So you see what I mean here? What is he gonna pick? Most people are just gonna go and play Metro and North Shore Canals only because vehicles were maybe just too frustrating for those people to deal with. Just a quick reminder, if you enjoy my content, please leave a like and a comment and subscribe for future content. I make 2 to 3 Battlefield videos a week and would love to keep providing content for you beyond this video. Thank you very much. Battlefield 3's vehicle balance was a very delicate rock, paper, scissors type of balance. Jet kills heli kills tank kills infantry, right? I think the main issue was just that infantry dies to all of those vehicles with basically no real chance of fighting back on some of those air maps. It also did not help that once people mastered any type of Battlefield 3 vehicles, especially if it was a jet, killing him is only realistic if you have an equally skilled pilot on your team. But sometimes that just isn't the case, and as Battlefield 3 got older and older, this became more and more of an issue. Honestly, I think Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 had a somewhat decent solution for this. It was not always effective, but there was random AA or AT stationary guns placed around the map to at least harass the vehicles a little bit and buy your teammates some time to deliver an attack to either the vehicle or capture a point. Maybe inclusion of a few more stationary things in the next Battlefield game is at least something infantry can utilize to deal with all those vehicles. In Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, if you went into a plane, or in Battlefield 1 specifically, if you went into a behemoth, you knew that eventually you will die. If people want you dead, you will die. Take for example the behemoth, the Zeppelin behemoth. You spawn in it, you will kill a lot of people, you will capture the flag, but eventually infantry will go on those anti-aircraft guns, people might go on a plane and bail on top of your Zeppelin and just see for you, and you will die. But in Battlefield 3, if you're an extremely good pilot, you will just not die. There's just no tools they have to deal with you. So you see what I mean here? I think Battlefield 1 had a much more casual approach to how to deal with vehicles and making it a little bit less frustrating. Or was it breakthrough? You know, it's very hard for me to actually pinpoint what was it that feels Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 a little bit better against vehicles. I'm not saying it's perfect, because you can and you certainly will get farmed by planes as well. But I felt like if I want a fucking plane dead in Battlefield 1, I will spawn a support, I will put my fire bullets on my burst on LMG, and I will kill that goddamn plane. You know what I'm saying? And in Battlefield 3, if I want to kill that pilot who is 500 on Firestorm, the only real effective way of me doing that, somebody who doesn't know how to fly or do anything of that sort, is me ramming him with a jet. That's it. Or me going into a helicopter and trying somehow to sit switch and killing him with the TV missile. That's it. Those are my options. Now listen, I'm not trying to bash Battlefield 3 here. It's my absolute favorite Battlefield game of all time and the game I put the most hours on of any game I have ever played. But we still have to acknowledge that many people really prefer to play Metro and North Shore Canals over the traditional maps in Battlefield 3. Now, you could make an argument that the reason they played Metro and North Shore Canals only is because those are very good maps. And, you know, that's a fair argument. But is it really fair to say that the other Battlefield 3 maps were not good? Because in my opinion, all of the Battlefield 3 maps, nearly all of them, are excellent. I'm talking about the vanilla maps here, of course. The DLCs, that's something else. But the vanilla maps were good enough that you should go play them. But something prevented them from playing those maps. And many of them claimed vehicles. This is why we were discussing it. Let's now switch to Battlefield 4 because it had a very interesting formula, which in my opinion worked a little bit better in this balance and the core gameplay loop with infantry and vehicles. In Battlefield 4, you were given the SRAW wire-guided rocket launcher, basically an all-purpose launcher, and if you got very good with it, well, you will be a menace to vehicles. The issue there was that the very vertical nature of the maps in Battlefield 4 meant that you can just sit on a rooftop all match and snipe vehicles from a very safe distance. It was effective, and you could keep vehicles at bay for a very long time, so long as you knew what you were doing. And some of my before-mentioned Battlefield 3 fans actually played more maps than just Locker because they had access to SRAW and vertical gameplay. The SRAW eventually became a pretty big issue for DICE, so they actually nerfed it. My opinion here was, I think that the rock, paper, scissors balance was kinda eliminated from Battlefield 4 just a little bit. For starters, there were just some maps that only featured a helicopter and no other air vehicle, or even an anti-aircraft vehicle. Siege of Shanghai, for example, comes to mind, a very, very popular helicopter map. I'm of the opinion that if there is an air vehicle on any map, it's irrelevant what type of map it is, there absolutely must be a responding vehicle on the map as well. Because if we don't have that, it will result in people only having SRAW and maybe some of the lock-on launchers to deal with the helicopter. However, Siege of Shanghai, I think, was also just a product of its time, of the Revolution time, of showing these huge big maps, and you know, they just had a helicopter in it and fine, whatever. Basically, what I'm trying to say, in Battlefield 4, they did give us a launcher that was an all-purpose launcher that could deal with all types of vehicles. And I think perhaps a launcher like this is maybe needed in the next Battlefield game. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this. Would you want the Battlefield 4 SRAW in some form to return? Do you want the OP original SRAW? Do you want some version of it that is more grounded, but you know, that really helps you deal with vehicles? Because, well, let's face it, the lock-ons are just not that very useful in Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. They really aren't. They're not gonna kill the good pilots. So we need something that takes a little bit of skill to use, that takes some time to master, but after we master it, that we have a very effective tool against vehicles. Or would you rather go for, you know, the Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 style of having a lot of stationary guns everywhere, maybe guns damaging the vehicle somehow? I don't know. What I do know is that I don't want people to be alienated in the next Battlefield game. I don't want my friends to just play one map because there's nothing they can do against vehicles. That's what I'm saying. And this really, and it comes, guys, this comes from a tank driver, okay? This is what I do. I'm a tank driver, okay? I play infantry as a secondary thing. If you enjoyed watching this video, leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment for the algo, please. I would really appreciate that. And I'll see you in the next Battlefield video. Let me know how you feel about this topic. It's a very important topic, guys. Have a nice day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.